Welcome to Reggie Sports Talk. I'm your host, RJ Kruger. After a little bit of a break on the recording, we are back, and we are back with March Madness. One of the best times for basketball season is March Madness. And I got Jack and I got Drew with me. And we're going to go through the March Madness brackets like we did the NFL brackets. We'll do a little bit of explaining on any upsets we have and then jump right into the Sweet 16. And then the other people will be able to ask us questions. So we're going to start with Jack. Jack, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, RJ?
I'm doing good. I am doing good. In 1 second, whenever I click on your bracket, it pulls up someone else's. Let me find your bracket. There it is. All right, Jack.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about your bracket.
All right, we got a few upsets in this one. The main 12 seeds we got are UC Santa Barbara over Creighton. I think their record or UC Santa Barbara's record is really good. They don't have many like games to show against good teams, but I think they can do it. Creighton got whooped by Georgetown earlier. And then on the right side, I got Winthrop beating Villanova. Villanova is their top guy injured, so I think Winthrop can get that one. They've only got one loss too. And then in the bottom left, if Michigan State wins, I'll probably take them to beat BYU. I don't know if UCLA wins, I might take BYU. I'm not really sure about that one. Um, that's about it for upsets. Um, I think a few teams are going far. I've got USC beating Kansas in the second round. Other than that, it's honestly pretty chalked into the Elite Eight with all the 1 seeds or 2 seeds and 3 seeds. So I got Gonzaga getting it in the top left. I think there's no team that can beat them. They've basically beaten every team already in their region. I have Texas in the bottom left. I think they just have the easiest path. I have Michigan getting the Elite Eight. I don't know if that'll happen, but I'm definitely not going to pick them to go to the Final Four. They could lose early, like we talked about earlier to LSU. Um, Texas Bama is definitely a hard one to pick. I couldn't really decide on that one, but I think Bama can only go so far. But we'll see. But yeah, I got Texas going there. Top right, I'll take Baylor. I think again, I just don't know who they'd lose to. Um, I have Arkansas getting the Elite Eight. I think that might be a little bit of an SEC bias, just because I've watched them play a little more. But they've looked really good. And then bottom right, same thing. I don't think anyone's beating Illinois. Um, I think, I mean, I don't really know who could beat them other than Gonzaga, which is why I got Gonzaga beating them in the championship. I think Gonzaga just, I don't know, if they're undefeated, they never win usually. They're kind of known to be the chokers because they're not a Power Five team. I think this is their year because you've got Kentucky out of the tournament, Duke out of the tournament. You don't have to deal with them. So I think this is their chance to win. And I think they will.
All right, Drew, do you got any questions to start off for Jack?
Is it just the Chicago bias for the Loyola Chicago Georgia Tech game, or is there some sort of analysis?
It originally was. I just want to root for them, kind of like I don't want to be like, oh, I want them to lose. But I did see the other day. I think one Georgia Tech player is out. I don't think it's their top guy, but that was enough for me to not think about changing it.
Okay, and then my other one is the BYU pick. You're picking against BYU, even though they got some 3 of those 6 losses are to Gonzaga.
I mean, yeah, I think the idea is it's hard for me to bet against Michigan State. I'd feel like an idiot if Michigan State wins and I didn't take them. Plus, whoever wins that Michigan State UCLA game is coming off of a win 2 days prior to that game. So I think you've got BYU coming a week off. Michigan State, UCLA have already played a tournament game. One of them won it. I think they'll have momentum and kind of already be in the groove first half.
Okay, I think that's my questions.
All right, so I got 2 questions for you. The first one is Ohio State losing to Arkansas. Why?
I think honestly part of it is that it's a second week. I think a team can be really good in the first weekend, and when you take that week off, I mean, like I said, I've watched Arkansas a little more than Ohio State. Ohio State almost won the Big Ten tournament, so I know they're capable of winning that game. I think I really like Arkansas's coach and the energy that he brings. So I think I think Arkansas could lose to like Texas Tech second round, but if they get to the Sweet 16, they're going to have a lot of energy around them. So I think they'd be able to pull the Ohio State upset off.
Okay. And then my other one that I see that I'm interested about is USC beating Kansas.
Yeah, so obviously, I don't know if you guys know this, but USC has Evan Mobley, who's basically, I think, gonna go number 2 in the draft behind the Oklahoma State guy. I think it's just the aspect of having the best player on the court in a game. It's hard to win or lose a game when you have that, and if he's on, I think they're good. Wichita State Drake, I know that's happening right now. I just don't think either of those teams are big enough to beat them. And then Kansas, I mean, they've had COVID issues. I think they're good enough to beat East Washington or Eastern Washington, whatever it's called. So I like USC to come out of that region just because of having the best player, I think is a big deal.
So I just want to go back to that really quick because you said the best players on Oklahoma State. Then why do you have them losing to a number 5 Tennessee in a later round?
So the reason I chose that one is because honestly, I think a lot of people have been hyping up Oklahoma State versus Illinois in the Sweet 16 and how that'll be a really good game if it happens. And I think, I don't know. I just, obviously this could be SEC bias again. Just Tennessee's looked good lately. I think this is the first time they've really been healthy in a while. And I think they're a more complete team than what like a Kansas is. And so I think you're able to shut down a single player. I think USC is a little bit more of a team than Oklahoma State too. I think Oklahoma State's just getting carried by Cade Cunningham, basically. I couldn't tell you another guy on that team. So I think Tennessee is more an all-around team. They were really good at the beginning of the season. If they get that back, then I think they can win that one.
All right. Drew, do you have any other questions now that he said anything?
No, I don't think I have anything major.
All right, then let's go ahead and jump to your bracket. This is your bracket. Can you see it good?
Not showing up for me yet.
Okay. How about, let's try this momentarily while we work the Zoom. How about now?
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be right. That looks
All right. Let's hear about it.
Okay, so major noteworthy picks. Honestly, off the bat, I mean, you see the champion, but we'll get to that in a second. But kind of like how Jax was, I mean, I have the 1, 4, 3, 2 in every conference, every like region, I believe. And that's just because I think these teams I think COVID's still an aspect, even though like we're kind of coming out of it. I still think that the teams that have the confidence and have the high rankings are just going to come out swinging, and I think they're going to win their games. But that's how like every bracket goes. You think it's going to be chalk, and that's why it's impossible to guess them. I do have like VCU beating Oregon. That's not much of an upset. I just really think the Pac-12 is kind of garbage. Unfortunately, I mean, I do like ASU, but like USC, I have them losing to Kansas because even though they have Mobley, I just don't think the Pac-12 has strong enough competition this year for any of those teams to prove themselves. So this year I've kind of tried to go with bigger Power 5 conferences and then really lean Big Ten heavy on a lot of my picks, just because I think that's been a dominant conference this year, and I think they're really playing at the highest level alongside the SEC. The Alabama pick, so we pretty much have the chalk 1, 2 everywhere, but I think West Virginia knocks off Houston. I have not seen Houston. Houston's high ranked every single year, and I have not seen them make a legitimate move. And so I think West Virginia takes that game, and then I have the 1s and 2s playing. Just because, again, I think Baylor could. I think Baylor will lose to Ohio State, and so then that puts. Okay. Okay. So I have Gonzaga, Ohio State, Illinois, and Alabama. And then I have Alabama beating Gonzaga, which is obviously going to happen. But I have that just because I think they're one of the most dominant, 3-point shooting teams. They're insane to watch, and they run at such a fast pace that I think it would be difficult for any team to try to control the pace against them. And then I think Illinois will choke because they're Illinois. And so I think Ohio State will get embarrassed on the national championship game again.
All right, Jack, what are your questions?
I mean, my first one is, I don't know how you managed to not take a single 11 or 12 seed. I'm kind of surprised. So you're saying you think there's going to be no upsets just because you think COVID's such a big deal that the better teams are just going to win every game?
So basically the one that I thought I was looking at UCSB Creighton. And then I just think Creighton's going to pull that out because people are doubting them. And even though they're like the favorite, I still think that that's a pretty, like, everyone loves to pick the 12 over the 5. And so I think the same thing for Villanova, especially. I wanted to lean Winthrop, but I think that now it's such a trend pick to pick Winthrop to beat Villanova that I think Nova's hearing that, and all the guys in the locker room are hearing, okay, without this player, you guys can't do anything. But I think they go in one game, but I think they'll be out in the next round after that. And then, I think Tennessee, Pons is just absolutely huge. And then I haven't seen Syracuse play enough down there. Georgetown, Colorado was kind of difficult, just because, again, I'm not a huge fan of the Pac-12 this year. But I'm also not a huge fan of Georgetown's conference if they were able to do what they did. So I think Colorado at the line, they're one of the best free throw shooting teams, I think, in the tournament this year. And I think if it just comes down to the wire, like a lot of games do, free throws win you the game.
All right, I got one more. So Ohio State beating Illinois in the Final Four. Obviously, we just saw Illinois beat them, and they look really hot. What makes you think Illinois gets all the way there just to lose?
So Illinois getting all the way there is kind of the part that it's really hard because Illinois has a pretty, for a 1 seed, I think they have a pretty hard path there. I think Georgia Tech's going to come out pretty hot and stomp Loyola personally. And then they have to play what I presume to be an Oklahoma State team coming off a win at Tennessee. So they'll have 2 hard games. West Virginia, those are 2 great teams in my bracket at least. So they'll have to beat that team. I think that Ohio State has an easier path, in my opinion. I don't think Arkansas is all they're talked up to be, and I don't think the winner of Florida or Georgia Tech is really going to be anything. Baylor, I really don't think they're a true number 1. So I think it's really just that Illinois is going to be coming off 3 hard games, and Ohio State's going to be resting their way to the Final Four. And then I think that you just have a rested team, and I think they've seen them before, so I think they got it.
That's all I got.
All right, so I'm A-okay with this happening. Anytime Michigan loses, it makes me happy. But what are your keys to Alabama beating Michigan?
So like I kind of mentioned earlier, Alabama runs an incredible pace. They mention it every time they play, but they always talk about how Alabama has one of the shortest time of possession per possession times. So they don't run down the court and drive and kick out. They will run down the court and be at the top of the 3-point line, make 1 pass and shoot the ball. they run a setup and they move the ball, but that's not how they prefer to play. They prefer to kind of throw up threes because they've been falling this season. So the key would just be to set the pace and not let Michigan slow the game down. Because running in transition, getting steals, Alabama's great at that. But if Michigan can set the pace and run a slower game, they don't run a slow game, but run a slower game than Alabama. That's where Alabama has struggled earlier in the season. That showed.
All right. I mean, that's the only question I have. Everything else looks pretty reasonable to me.
Perfect, I think is what you meant. Looks
Reasonable. Perfect. Let me try to get my bracket up really quick, and I'll show you guys what a real bracket looks like. Can you see it? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So any major upsets that I have in the first round, I mean, I have a couple 9 seeds beating some 8 seeds that I don't really feel like is that big. I also have MSU or UCLA beating BYU. Same reason Jack was saying. I just think that they're going to be hot coming off of winning tonight and then being able, and BYU's been resting for a while. I have Rutgers beating Clemson. I don't know. I just put that in there. I have Virginia Tech beating Florida. I felt like that one was kind of a coin toss, and that's the way I went. And then, yeah, I don't really have any other like major upsets early. When you move later on into my round of 32, my biggest upset would probably be, where was it? Round of 32 on. I have San Diego State beating West Virginia. I feel like that's a toss-up game also, and I think that San Diego State will come out with it. And then I also have Texas Tech beating Arkansas. I don't think either of you were very sold on Arkansas in that game, so I think you're kind of see where I'm coming from there. And then into my Elite Eight, I have Gonzaga versus Kansas. I have Gonzaga winning that. I have Colorado versus Texas. I have Texas winning that. I have a Baylor beating Villanova, and then I have Ohio State beating Texas Tech, and then of course U of I beating Tennessee and Houston beating San Diego State. To move on to Gonzaga beating Texas in the Final Four, and Illinois beating Ohio State in the Final Four, and Illinois winning it all on a last-second three-pointer.
Oh, on a buzzer beater, we're going that far?
Yeah.
All right. I guess my main question would be some of the Sweet 16 picks. I'm interested in Kansas beating Iowa and Colorado beating Michigan. What were the logic of those? Were those kind of just you felt someone had to lose, some big teams, or was there like...
The Michigan one was me being an Ohio State fan. I don't want them going farther than the Sweet 16. I also didn't want to be boring and have like 1, 2, 3, 4 like throughout the whole bracket just going forward. So that was mainly the Kansas beating Iowa one. And then again with the Colorado, I put the 5 in there because I just didn't want it to be just leveled in a Elite 8 and Final Four of just 1s and 2s and all of that.
I have a question about the LSU St. Bonaventure game. How you're picking against LSU on that one?
I mean, I just kind of threw it up there. You know me, I'm a wild card. Don't really watch a lot of college basketball. I know LSU is hot, but I feel like they might just be a little hype right now. And I kind of got to go for the underdog at here and there.
I was also wondering, I mean, I don't know if you knew this, but obviously Villanova's top players out and you have them going to the Sweet 16. What's your logic there? Do you think they're just like, it's Villanova, they'll do it? Or
that, and then also, I mean, I think they'll beat Winthrop. And then I don't think Purdue is all that they're hyped up to be. I think that they could beat Purdue just because Purdue has its games where they're really good and their games where they don't show up at all. So when I have that question about a whole team, I can't put them in a Sweet 16.
My question's about Illinois' consistency.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we talked about the road getting there being kind of difficult. Explain how you took them to take it all the way.
I mean, you see them play Drexel and then Loyola Chicago. I just think they're better than both of those teams. That's fine. When you start to get to Tennessee and Houston, that's where it gets a little bit tougher. I feel like they'll be able to beat Tennessee. I just think that they're better than Tennessee. I don't really watch a lot of SEC basketball, but I don't feel like Tennessee is all that hyped up. And then, like you said, Houston is always looked at as big, and then they're never really finished. So then it goes down to them playing Ohio State, and Ohio State could not make a basket to save their lives against U of I in the first matchup. So I don't have them beating Ohio State as much as them squeaking out another win against them. And then I think in the big stage, all their players will be hyped and ready. And that's when Gonzaga will choke again, because we all know Gonzaga chokes in the tournament.
At the buzzer.
At the buzzer. They'll have a lead and lose a comeback lead. And then at the buzzer, U of I will drain a three-pointer to win.
That's all I've got.
That was my last one too.
All right. Thanks for coming on and talking about March Madness, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Anytime.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on Reggie Sports Talk. Let us know in the comments down below who your Final Four and victors of March Madness is. Hope you're as hyped as we are for March Madness, and we'll see you next week as we start a regular recording schedule. Peace.